Don here in Florida, and today I want to talk about the Monarch 10EE. This machine, luckily for me, I got a hold of through my brother, and I just wanted to bring this up here and put up this sign. Thanks, Jeff, for all you did. My brother Jeff, he went and retrieved this machine for me and transported it, and then he stored it, which I thought was really good of him. Especially good of his wife, because I believe she was probably pressing between this machine and the washing machine in their basement for a number of years until it got hauled off. Then again, my brother, he packed it up and he got it shipped to me again down here in Florida, which is really a good thing. I really appreciate that, and you know, I will forever be grateful. My brother Jeff, he's like the salt of the earth, best guy in the world. If you ever run across him, thank him, buy him a beer. And today I'm going to do part one. There's going to be two parts here. Part one is the walkthrough of everything more or less that I did to get this machine back and going again. And I'm going to post some pictures up here to show what it looked like when I got a hold of it, because it didn't look anything like this. And then part two, this part, the purists of the Monarch 10EE group may want to abstain. You probably don't want to watch that, because if you don't like power plant changeouts, if you don't believe in repowering them, don't watch it. If you're interested in doing a VFD yourself, then this may be a pretty good video for you to watch. It may take some of the pain out of the thought of doing it. It always seems difficult, but in the end it's actually pretty straightforward and easy. So part one's parts two, and let's get a roll on. We'll start at this end, because my brother Jeff, he never saw this the way it was supposed to be. All these slats here were gone, so was that ring. Actually, there was only one slat. It was this one right here. That's the only one left that was original. This panel here was busted into originally 3 pieces, and I helped to make sure that it got busted into 4 when I took delivery of it. So this panel here was actually 4 different pieces. So what I did was I brazed up this whole panel and sanded it and basically made it whole again. When I say brazed, I don't mean I did it with gas. I mean I did it with one of these. This is a multi-plas welding tool, and if anybody's not familiar with these use plasma for welding. It's not like a TIG welder, it's not like a MIG welder, it's its own type of welder. You should really look it up. It basically just creates plasma in the tip and blows it out with hot steam. It's really like gas welding at 100 miles an hour. So when you do the braze, this actually had brakes from top to bottom on 2 sides, and it had been welded at one point in the past and just tack welded, and all that weld I had to grind out, which was bad. Once I got that done, this in itself would basically heat the metal so quickly that I could run braze just like this, just like running solder into a groove. The kerf that it creates is very narrow and it's very precise, and because you're brazing, you're not overheating the metal for an extended period of time, so you don't end up with cracking in the end. Came out really great. I'm really glad I used this tool for that. I should probably do a separate video on the multi-plas unit itself. It's really an amazing tool for anybody that's willing to get through the learning stages of it, because there is a little bit of a learning curve with it before you can get proficient with it. So just keep that in mind if you want to buy a multi-plas. Anyway, we got this panel all put together. I think it came out pretty nice. Fit in there properly. I did have to put in a little bit of a spacer in this bottom edge to bring it up, to square it, but that was about it. The beauty strips themselves in here were basically just some leftover aluminum that I had, so I just contoured these on the mill. This was an original piece here, so I kept that in. The ring, my neighbor cut out on his laser cutter, and then I contoured it on the lathe, so that's aluminum as well. and that's about it. It brought the whole back of this back together. Luckily the top lock was functioning, so I didn't have to worry about that. And I got the back end together, so I'm pretty happy about that. So Jeff, it's in one piece again. All right, let's move it around. All right, coming to the side of the lathe. This was a disaster, by the way. The whole thing was just nasty. If you saw in the pictures, it literally had an inch of black and green goop all over it. There was no paint on it. It was just really in bad looking shape. What I did on the back was, originally, I don't know, I'm talking to my brother here, I don't know if you remember, it had the big glass scales here and up here, and then the Mitutoyo DRO up here. That all had to go. The glass scales were broken, the head itself wasn't operating properly, it just all went to the garbage. There was a great big bracket up the back here that had plug-ins and outlets and all kinds of crap on it. That went straight into the dumpster. Got rid of that. The idea was just to clean up the whole back side of this for now. Up the road I may garbage it up, but for right now it looks clean. In doing so, I had to take out I took the breakers out anyway. There's no breakers in here anymore. I had to take the breakers out, and I covered in all the holes, smoothed them up. I wanted to have a lamp available, so I just made this outlet here for the lamp, a solid piece of aluminum, and then up into this, it was actually an Amco lamp. I put this Amco lamp on here. Works out great. It's not on right now, but that came out nice. So I smoothed up the whole back of it. The inlet for power was just a hole in the side. What I did there was I put I drilled that out. I actually bored it out with a big boring tool. I bored that out, and I put a female receptacle in for the 250 volts in right here, and that's clamped in on from the inside. Hopefully we can see that when we get inside there. So that cleaned all this up. The flood cooling system wasn't even hooked up on this. There was no pump in it. It was all gone. There was a great big gaping hole right here for the flood coolant to come out and provide coolant to the top side. But with nothing there, I just decided to make my own manifold. So I ran my line to the manifold, and yes, I have a pump in there. We'll get to that in a minute. Actually, we'll get to it in the next clip. So I built this manifold. I ran my coolant to it up through. Built another manifold here, and then I decided to just buy some of these cheap flood cooling lines for now. I wanted to buy some of the good ones, but I already got a good one that I use on the mist sprayer, so I thought I'd give these cheap ones a try. I think I got like a dozen for 10 bucks, and believe it or not, they actually work out pretty good. What I wasn't too thrilled with were the plastic valves on here. I didn't think they'd really kind of take the pressure that I was pushing up to that point. So I installed this heavy-duty DeVilbiss valve right here, and this is what I actually control the pressure with, and then I can fine-tune control it with the plastic if I want. So that works out really good. I have used the flood coolant on this. I was turning some pretty heavy stuff there for a few days, and it worked out great. I found out that I needed to make a shield for that, which I did. In the end, I threw it away because it was kind of a piece of junk. I also had to make a splash guard for the back of this, and what I did was I just took this piece of tin off air conditioning cover and bent a piece of metal on the back, made this bracket to lock it into, and it just drops into place, and that's all I need to do. There is a tightening screw, but I hardly ever use it, but it keeps 99% of anything that's coming off that chuck and puts it right back in the pan. So I'm really happy with that. The nice thing about it is that I can remove it for cleaning out the tray, and that really speeds it up. If I had this all closed in, doing that would be nearly impossible. My son left me this thing out of his refrigerator when he left, so I dropped that in there. See, it's perforated. I don't know exactly what this did, but I dropped that in, and it collects up about 95% of the chips as we're going through here. One of the things that I got to thinking was, with all this COVID stuff going on, you go in the restaurants and whatnot. Matter of fact, I took my wife to Waffle House the other day. We had our wedding anniversary dinner. So, you know, we had to go someplace fancy. And when I was up there, I noticed there were plastic barriers between all the stalls, which I thought was pretty cool. And then when I was walking into Walmart and some of these other stores, I see they got the Lexan and the plexiglass everywhere. And I was thinking to myself, you know, when this COVID's over, how much of that Lexan and plexiglass is going to be in the dumpster in the back behind these stores and restaurants? So needless to say, I'm going to do a little dumpster diving when this COVID starts disappearing, because really I could close this whole thing in for nothing. Some of that Lexan and plexiglass. Okay, so the MG, the motor generator, is gone now. When I got this unit, the whole thing, the motor generator was just sliding around in here. It basically served no purpose. It wasn't hooked up. I don't even know why it was in there. So I took it out. This is the motor right here. The generator's over in my storage unit. I took it out. Being that I got cataracts, I can't see anything, so I decided to paint the whole interior of this thing white, because I had a whole lot of white paint on hand. And basically use it for storage. So there's my Cushman 4-jaw, there's my center rest, I got my extra oils and stuff in here. Looking up in there, I got my tool post grinder. So made a nice storage for all the stuff that goes with this. So I'm pretty happy with that. Notice the gray paint, Battleship gray, it ain't pretty. It wasn't sprayed on, it was brushed and rolled on. It serves its purpose for now. I mean, down here in Florida, if it ain't painted, it's gonna rust. And after I cleaned this up, it started rusting almost right away. So I had to get paint on it quick, and this gray and this white, that's what I had. So here we are, back around to the front side. I want to start at the bottom. As you can see, I painted the whole interior white. That's just to lighten things up, make it easier for me to see what I was doing. There's my tool post grinder. Not much to see down here, actually. Moving up, the one thing that I can really say about this machine is that I got extremely lucky on the top side. For as bad as the bottom side was, the MG being torn up, the box in the front missing, all the electronics messed up, it was just a mess. The top side was just the opposite. The only real issue I had on the top side was this handle right here. This knob was actually broken off, so I took a 1-inch ball bearing and I slotted it and brazed it on, and that was about it. The tailstock was seized up, and I put this in a bucket of diesel fuel for about 2 months, and when I took it out, I gave it a couple knocks and it came loose, and then I took it apart and cleaned it up and it was fine. The ways themselves were just amazing. I couldn't get over the ways. These were covered in an inch of black and green and nasty. And when I took all that off, when I took some engine cleaner, cleaned it all off, power cleaned everything down, oiled it all up, I started moving the carriage back and forth, and it started pumping oil immediately. The Bijur pump was working flawlessly, and it just started pumping oil, and everything ran smooth. I did about every test I could to find out if there's any significant wear in the ways, and found next to none. It was just amazing. For a machine this old, I don't know how these ways were in such good shape. The apron itself, everything functioned correctly on that. I didn't have to tear any of that out. I didn't even bother to tear it down because everything works perfectly. The cross slide and the follower, everything, it works fine. The only thing I did add to this, after I did actually go through this, I went through the cross slide. I tore that down and cleaned it up, and I had to make this chip guard on the back. That was out of a block of aluminum from a manifold that I just cut to size and chopped up and made what I needed it for. But that was about it. The only thing I did was really to change this was, since there was no tool post holder here, and I had one of the old 4-ways I could have put on here. I decided to go ahead and buy one of these from Pee-wee. It's a multi-fixed tool holder. This thing is just amazing. I'd always wanted to try one, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity. So on with the multi-fix, and I have absolutely no regrets. It's just a brilliant piece of tooling. I managed to pick up this Bison chuck for, I don't even want to say, people either call me the luckiest guy in the world or a flat-out liar, so I'm not even going to talk about that. I do have the Cushman 4-jaw down there, so I'm well on my way to getting tooled up on this machine. Like I said, the ways were in amazing condition. The apron and everything up here was working just fine. The cross slide and the compound I did go through, I got that all tightened up and cleaned, but everything worked fine. The spindle, very quiet, no issues here, so I didn't bother to go through that. I took the cover off, looked down in there, and amazingly, the oil that was in there it looked like it was brand new. I don't know. The gearbox, the 2-speed on the bottom side was nasty. It was just horrific. I had to go through that 2-speed gearbox down there end to end. It was just new bearings, new everything. It was just pathetic. But the top side, the gearbox here, no issues whatsoever, runs quietly, shifts beautifully. I changed out the fluids, top and bottom here, but that's about it. It runs just as good as can be. So I left it all alone. I'm very happy with that. One of the things I did do, though, I want to talk about this for just a second, was I went ahead when I was changing the oil. These glass sights right here, one of them was broken, this one back here, and although it was broken, it was cracked. It wasn't leaking out. When I took it off, the lens came out in pieces, and the oil came out behind it, and of course I cleaned everything up. And when I went to decide to put a piece of glass in, I was like, well, what am I going to put in there? And what I did was I took one of these magnifiers. It has like the 3 stands on it, and they had lenses in them, and I've got one of the lenses here. It had 2 lenses in them, and they're 2 convex lenses, and I thought maybe these would work. They were the exact same size as in here, okay? And I took the one, I put the glass in here, and then I took the plastic convex and I put it here. And when I put it in and tightened everything down and added oil, the one thing I noticed about these convex lenses, sort of like the magnifier on a Rolex watch, they kind of take out some of the parallax error. So when you're looking up and down like this, the line pretty much seems to stay even, so you get a better view of the fluid going in. On top of that, the light that's magnified going in creates a little bit brighter light on the inside, so you can see the fluid better, which I thought was really great. Before I found that 3 post stand that I had actually sitting in the back of my toolbox, I was originally going to use one of these. These are the little what do you call them, the lupas that you use for looking up close to things. You can buy a whole box of these in Harbor Freight for about $3.50, and they're the exact same size lens, and they're also convex as well, so those would work, I think, very well as well, ideally. I mean, if you look at these, same size, probably same manufacturer makes them for both things. But anyway, top end was all in great condition. Like I said, I changed out the oil. Oh, and there's another thing. I was talking or listening to some of these guys on the internet the other day, and there's always a guy that has a question: how do you get these out? How do you get them out? You might have a guy sitting here with a pair of pliers, take the screws out, you're working them. That's not the way to do it, and you don't have to get all fancy. There's no special tools for it. Just take a brass punch and round the end slightly so that it sort of contours with the inset on that ring. Take your screws out, take a hammer about this size here, just get up in there and just give it a couple taps. they'll start to twist. Once they start to twist, you can just reach in there with a pair of needle nose and wiggle them out. They come right out. It's not that difficult. Don't make it bigger than it is. And I'm sure there's probably some guys that'll disagree with me. Oh, you gotta have a special tool for that and this and that, and that's hammer mechanics. But you know, these are not smashed up. I mean, I didn't break any glass, and I've been doing it for years. So I really, you know, I prefer that route. It's just fast, simple, to the point. And that's about it. That's the walkthrough on this machine. I can't think of anything I've missed because the top side was so good. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. I'm going to go do a whole nother section just on the electrics. So with that, Don out.